All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming. Welcome to Universe AMA number 12. We got a handful of exciting updates for you on kind of the marketplace priorities and what we've been working on. So I can kind of run you down from the top of the list and give some detail and color into what we've been focused on and where the energy and efforts have been. So one of the first things I'll touch on that I'm really excited about is that we're upgrading our infrastructure to be powering the front end from something called Amplify now. The major benefit this gives us is that we're able to run Next.js applications and have been able to enable SEO and more explicitly Open Graph. And for those not familiar with Open Graph, what's really cool about that is that when you send a link to an NFT on Universe, you'll actually see the image and the name of the NFT and all of this. And so all of the Universe links that you'll be able to send on social medias over like text, Twitter, Discord, however you do it, they're all going to look really great. So you'll see support for that coming very shortly, and we'll make an announcement once that feature is bundled into a full release. The next thing I want to touch on a little bit was 1155s. Source Scraper is supporting 1155s, and over the next week, they'll actually start showing up in your wallet as we enable 1155 support, first for the NFTs themselves and then for trading the NFTs. We're getting very close to 1155 support. We're essentially solving the partial fill problem because ERC 1155s have different amounts, and they're kind of almost closer to ERC 20s than they are 721s. So there's a few key differences, but almost all of the backend work on that side is coming together. So it's going to be really exciting. You'll be able to list 1155s, multiple of them in one transaction, and you'll be able to make offers for multiple 1155s as well in one go. So that's going to be cool. Additionally, we're doing a lot of work on both fixing the search and trade filtering. I'm kind of bundling these together because these are both a part of the improvements to the overall data scraper and the schemas involved there. There's a lot of nerdy technical stuff going into optimizing all of the queries there and making sure that everything is being bundled efficiently and as fast as possible. So there is a lot of cross-team coordination going on within Universe. As you guys know, we have LimeChain and we have additional contributors on board, as well as a team out of New Zealand. So this is, has all hands on deck, and everyone's kind of working together to improve all of this. But there is a lot of progress being made, and the trade filtering is one of the kind of things that we're focused on gearing these optimizations to be able to solve efficiently first. So that's actually a feature that will come out of the data scraper improvements, essentially. Another fix that has been made and will be pushed to production, hopefully by the end of the week as well, that's been fixed and is now being tested, is the hardware wallets, being able to list NFTs for sale. So there was a very fun saga there where initially we realized that the old signature method, ETH v3, was no longer working with the ledger and MetaMask. So we upgraded to v4 and everything seemed all fine and dandy. You were able to list your NFTs for sale. But what we quickly realized was that the ledger is not following the proper signing standard, and it was not using the right way of basically passing that data along. So the last two numbers of the signature were actually not correct. However, they're always the same, so we're able to replace it on our side. So we're able to patch that fix, and now people are able to buy NFTs from a ledger once that gets pushed into production. Just need a little more testing there. But ultimately, there was a whole saga to get the ledgers working. But going forward, they will be supported, thankfully. One last thing I will touch on is that not all the NFTs that exist on Ethereum follow the 721 standard. We already have support for a good handful of these, including CryptoPunks. Another one that we've been building out support for is the hash masks, which do not have token URIs. So there's been a little bit of work reconstructing kind of that side of the equation. That was finished out as well early this week and is in testing. And hopefully within the next 24 hours, all the hash masks should be showing up properly. So that'll be really cool. I think there's a good handful of other collections we can build out those custom integrations for that need it, especially some with some weird base 64 stuff that have been brought up. But if you do know of or work with a collection that is not standard 721 and you do want support for it, just like with the regular 721s, please make a snapshot post or reach out to me, and we'll work together to get something done there. I think that covers all of the really major updates and kind of critical points that we've been working on internally. I think we can either transition to questions, or I can give it back to Mark and let him say a few words if he has anything.
I'm also on here. Sorry I'm late, everybody.
Hey, Tyler.
All good. No, I think you hit on a lot of points. I think that's just, I just want to reiterate, we're still working on some of these things that we set out to fix last week, and just bear with us. We're trying to tackle some of the larger problems first. But essentially we have all hands on deck fixing as much things as we can on the marketplace. We can hop into questions next. Since we were a little late to posting the forum, so if anyone has any questions and they want to open them up, definitely throw them in the pre-AMA channel, or you can post them in the forum. I'll continue to look at that and refresh that if new questions pop up. But Wiggly Woo has a question about the polymorphs. He says he's kind of been out of sync with the project, but wants kind of an update on the polymorphs and wants to know about the future and plan. So essentially, we haven't been talking about the polymorphs a lot, but we actually have a ton of updates for them coming. We have Chuba can actually hop in here and wherever he wants and help me with this, but essentially we have version 2 polymorphs that we're going to ask everybody to burn, and you're going to get a polymorph that's going to be compatible with Polygon and basically all the games that we've built. And we have plans to integrate with some of our friends in the ecosystem like Fluff and ASM, and essentially some of those things that are going to come, you're going to need a V2 polymorph. So we're going to essentially have people migrating their polymorphs to these version 2 polymorphs. They're essentially going to be the same art, but they're going to have a lot more capabilities, and you're going to be able to do a lot more with your polymorphs. And once we release the bridge, you're going to be able to bridge those to Polygon, and you'll be able to scramble them for an extremely low fee. But you'll be able to put them on Ethereum and scramble them both ways, depending on how, where you want to keep your assets. That's up to you. But we are building out a lot of games and a whole world of lore. And we are actually, a lot of people have been talking about marketing in the recent AMAs. And actually, some of the marketing that we've actually been planning is around the polymorphs. We want to try and market the marketplace with the polymorphs. But essentially, we believe that the polymorphs and universe are very aligned in branding, and essentially, we think that the polymorphs are funny and we can bring them. If Zach wants to talk a little bit about some of the marketing that we've been doing, we've started an Instagram, we've started a TikTok. We've been trying to get a little bit more targeted marketing on the Twitter. We've actually given the team access to the Twitter where we all review things, but essentially we have more people interacting on the Twitter so that we can get a little bit more engagement going. But we are trying to expand out all of the marketing. That's something that everyone has been kind of bringing up the last few weeks. So check us out on Instagram, check us out on TikTok, give us a follow, and give us feedback on the content that you guys are seeing. Like it, share with your friends, and we've heard you guys. We're trying to be more transparent, and we are definitely trying to kick up the marketing. But like we said, we definitely want to really hold back on any massive marketing on the marketplace until we get a fully functioning product that we are happy to market. Chuba, is there anything that you would want to add to that? I know I left a lot of alpha out on the polymorphs, but that's kind of the first thing is coming, is burning for V2 polymorphs.
Yeah, I'll probably just reiterate. I won't expand on what comes after burning, I guess. But I will say that there's a bunch of stuff in the works in the first step to being able to participate in all the cool polymorphic craziness that will be coming. Will be, of course, to burn your V1 and claim your very brand new, optimized, fun, and polygon friendly polymorph V2.
And I think one more thing to really emphasize here is we actually have hired more developers, and we have essentially built a team, a polymorph development team. So as the community sees us pushing updates for polymorphs, I just want everyone to realize that that's not going to be the same team as that's working on the marketplace. Essentially, if you see like some, polymorph upgrades to the marketplace, those could essentially be the polymorph team, not just the marketplace team. But when we see like, the polymorph game get dropped and, a lot of these next things that are coming, that is a whole different development team. Those guys are from LimeChain, but they are new devs that we've brought on and are definitely only going to be working on that. One more thing I want to touch up on before we answer any more questions, and if anybody has any questions, please throw them in the pre-AMA channel. But we've gotten some feedback that some of the AMAs are kind of redundant because we get a lot of the same questions. So we're actually going to switch to an alternative idea. So some people who have been around, they may have watched some of our early project calls. We're going to jump back into doing those bi-weekly. So essentially next week, we're going to have a project call instead of an AMA. And then the week after that, we'll have an AMA again. And then we'll have a project call. And we'll alternate every week. And we think that the project calls are a little bit more informative because we can actually record those and then release them. And we actually did a lot of brainstorming this week on trying to line up times on like, what is an AMA that actually like time that makes sense for everyone to join. And like 3 o'clock Eastern is actually a great time for the community. And it's actually a terrible time for LimeChain because they're like in Eastern Europe. So it gets kind of difficult to align everyone, but essentially everyone loves hearing their updates. And the best way for us to do this is to just go back to how we were doing it and have our recorded 9 a.m., 10 a.m. calls that LimeChain and all the developers are actually able to hop on. And then we can release that call and then everyone's informed about what's going on. And then I think we'll get a little bit more questions about the actual development and what's going on versus everyone just asking us when marketing. So I just wanted to inform everyone on that. I'm going to hop back over to this forum and see if anyone has posted another question. Okay, it looks like no one has posted anything. So, I mean, if anyone wants to raise their hand either, now that we're doing this stage, if anyone wants to talk to, we can bring people up and you can talk. Also, the reason we switched to this is because hopefully more people start joining these. I think you can only have 99 people in the way we were doing it. And some of the AMAs got capped out, but also like people would join and their mic would be on, and like I think last week like someone like flushed a toilet and you could hear it. But so we definitely had to move away from that. But
yeah, I think overall
you live and learn.
Yeah, we like the stages.
But yeah, essentially, I think There's not a ton of questions. Wiggly Woo, we appreciate your question about the polymorphs. There's a lot of stuff coming for the polymorphs. I mean, we've been talking with Fluffs, we've been talking with ASM. I'm not going to really talk too much about all that, but I mean, if you can try to guess what we're trying to plan, I guess that's kind of alpha, but we got to teach the polymorphs how to do some stuff.
And the polymorphs are getting a lot of cool stuff built around them. So you definitely want to follow the Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah, we're gonna actually really try to start pushing out most of our like marketing content around the polymorphs and around TikTok and Instagram, and Twitter. But essentially, we're gonna really try to start promoting them, and we've actually been building stuff for the polymorphs for probably 6 to 7 months, alongside a lot of the stuff we built in the marketplace. But now that we have a devoted polymorph team, we actually are gonna we have all the resources necessary to actually push those things to production and get them published without having to take away from resources on the marketplace. So that's essentially the big update here, is that, you know, this isn't going to be taking away from anything that we're working on in the marketplace. And we actually are like looking at you know, bringing on more people to help, essentially. If people from the community are interested and have the experience, we'd love to talk to more people. I don't know if Tyler wants to add anything to that.
No, I mean, I'm honestly just listening in. In general, I mean, across the board, we're doing a lot. We released the marketplace. We're getting our ducks in a row. Improvements are coming. I mean, I'm still at the point that I feel like we've really only released about 20% of what we've actually worked on. So, like, I know we're in a fast-moving industry, but I would have patience on this, because a lot of like time and investment has gone into the aggregate of what we're building, and we tend to finish what we start. So these projects will get pushed through.
Looks like we have some people are typing some questions for us. But yeah, also what I was just mentioning, Tyler, is like dev talent, if you wanted to add anything to that. Like,
I mean, for across the board, we're adding dev talent. Like, it's hard because we've got we're kind of segmenting. Like, we've got developers added to Graviton, which is Troy is the CEO of that, but it's like me and Troy's kind of universe related company, where like we have a company that's building on top of universe, and a lot of what Troy is working on is going to bring a lot of utility to the XYZ token, and that's separate, like a separate raise of capital. So it's not like coming from universe coffers outside of like the grant, which, like, you know, the company ultimately has that grant because we need the token to enact change on the protocol. Then we have the polymorphs team. We've added like in-house backend resources. Tim, now that the marketplace is out, has been just cranking out a ton of smart contracts, and like it's really awesome when you have like a super passionate co-founder that's just pushing out like boutique level customized smart contracts. Like, I mean, Tim is probably one of the best people in the industry, and like he doesn't even take a salary from Universe, and he's just kind of jumping in and bringing things finished. Like we have additional private auditors that we've been working with. LimeChain's been absolutely crushing it and adding people. I mean, we're even talking about adding someone that can help like from a full stack capacity and a game dev. Like I know that like 3D modelers aren't like actual developers, but for the Deviants related stuff and the Polymorphs related stuff, we brought on like a very technical head of all of the 3D stuff and gaming stuff we're working on. Zach / Transmental is extremely technical and has been added. Troy has people on his team that I don't really want to name drop, but are helping deeply with that stuff. So like our development team is growing enough that we can segment it. We've kind of been pushing everything forward almost like chickens with our heads cut off, trying to just get this stuff out and keep everything like nudged along enough that it doesn't completely get forgotten about. But segmentation and specialization is like one of the reasons that free market capitalism won out. So like the more that we can have segmented and specialized teams focused, you can do one thing really well focused as opposed to numerous things all over the place, which I think that what we've done up to this point has been very much like birdshot and land grab. And now we have like the capital and excitement around the project where we can focus a segmented team on each one of these like main buckets that looks promising. So like each one of the things that I discuss has like a lead, a team, and we're going to keep building all that stuff out. It took a lot to get here, but I feel like each week passing, things get better.
I'm gonna skip these questions right here and then come back to them just because JD Buffalo's question is kind of about what Tyler's talking about. And he's asking if hiring more devs is about realizing you need more, or is it more about opportunistically adding talent? I'm not exactly sure what opportunistically adding talent means, but
I think originally it was probably more opportunistic, and now it's need. So like,
I mean, but it's also just like we're getting to the point where we have a lot to ship, and you know, we are getting to the point where we need some more hands, just because Universe has grown and is now kind of, you know, we have minting contracts, we have a marketplace, but it's not so easy to just bring people in and know where all the endpoints are. But like, you know, if someone gets like sick or something, we need to make sure that like there's, you know, a redundant person that can be able to help fix something or solve something, or, you know, everyone knows certain areas of where they need to pick up slack if something happens. But it is, I mean, as companies scale, you have to hire more people, and that's kind of what we're going with now is, I mean, we have polymorphs, we have a marketplace, we have to still deploy the auctions.
Answer this, like, not to interrupt you, but I can answer this just dead on. Like,
Yeah.
In the beginning, I think a lot was exploratory. So like we did embark on doing things that people just haven't done in Web3 to this point. Like we're still in a new space, and so ultimately like we didn't know what we didn't know, and I feel like in some capacity we were like turning stones over. Like when we launched the polymorphs, like that really didn't take that long for like George kind of just contributed that and worked, and like a lot of that stuff happened over a 5 or 6 day period. But then I think that I underestimated how much like additional work that a lot of these like NFT drops were doing, like which Fluff World showed just by like absolutely like crushing it and sole focusing on that. And then like the auctions are something that I think is still extremely needed in the market. And then Tim made these like really cool iterative contracts based off of the auctions. And like we haven't launched the auctions and we haven't launched like the raffles that like Tim has created. So like now in this exploratory function, we basically have a bunch of things like 80% done. And I mean, I would even say the marketplace is 80% from where it needs to be. And I think that we know where we need to like focus. Like we continue to hear that people want like more just bespoke minting contracts. And like Tim has pretty much been writing minting contracts until he wrote the raffle contracts. But like it takes time to build a back end and front end to all of these functions. So like, I don't think that it was like opportunistic so much as like it was such a new space over the past year while we were exploring that like naturally some stones unturned nothing and other stones unturned quite a lot. But like when you're creating something new, I read like a Harvard business study use case when I was younger that basically was saying that people who lead younger organizations have to utilize like effectual thinking, which is these are the resources I have. What can I build with these resources, or what outcomes derive of all of these resources that we have access to, and which path do we take? Then there are large companies that have like A-type CEOs that they have like a singular mission and point goal. Like I need to raise production by X%. So what those types of people do that are normally more like bureaucratic is they will say, I need to get to this point. What do I need to do in order to get to this point? Because if I get to this point, we win. So in the stage of our organization, we're much more effectual in saying, these are all of the directions that we can go. And right now, I think that the directions that we need to be focused on are getting everything that is 80% to 100%, pushing all of that out, seeing what gets reception, seeing what works. And eventually some of those things will probably get cut out from a priority perspective based on the amount of effort to get there. So we have to get from basically being an effectual organization that is exploratory, which is naturally where we had to be over the past year, to one with a singular point and mission that moves us to a set goal, right? And I think that the community may be looking at the set goal and direction as one singular thing, like beat looks, beat OpenSea. But ultimately, there is a wide range of opportunities that could arise from this, because 2 years ago, looks and OpenSea didn't exist in a meaningful capacity. So some of what we're doing right now could be what people are talking about in 2 years from now. So it's a little myopic to only say, let's put all forces into this one thing, which is why I think that it's best that we segment and iterate across the board, continue to like push out those tentacles. And through doing so, all of us are going to start to see things that are working. I hope that answers your question. So it's not like opportunistic. It's more, it's been exploratory. We've looked at a lot of different things. We have a lot of things 80% done. We need to get them all to 100%. And then we need to push that out to the market, see what gets traction. And then we need to focus even more from there.
Yep, and continue to add features that the community wants, and we'll bring those through DAO votes. Xerxes, this question, can you write a post on the remaining 80? I kind of answered it for you down below, but Tyler kind of just answered it in his last little spiel. It's kind of all that stuff that Tyler was just talking about. I mean, the auctions, all these minting contracts that Tim has been working on, the rest of the features of the marketplace, the back end optimization of the marketplace, and then adding, like the searching and filtering and, the actual rest of the marketplace that's coming. So, I mean, a lot of that stuff is going to put Universe over the top, and people are gonna. I mean, some of those. I'm not gonna go into what those NFT like contracts that Tim are working on are, but I can tell you they're new types of NFTs. I mean, I don't want to call them not ERC 721s, but they're very new types of canvases. If that gives you any type of alpha. An average mayo sandwich. Can we talk about plugging in the ASM brains into a polymorph? Just so everyone knows, me and Tyler are advisors for altered state machines. We did like sign NDAs to become advisors for that. So there is some things that we can't talk about with like the development of the brains. But I did have a super promising call with Hal, who's the CTO of ASM last week. And he and me dove pretty deep into the capability of the polymorphs with the brains. And first answer is yes, it's possible. But this is actually something that I thought we could probably open up to the community about after I talked to him is we actually need to decide what the polymorphs are going to learn, because the brains like basically the polymorph is kind of like I don't know what the word is for it, but it's kind of like a host, and the host teaches it how to do something. And essentially there's code written, and we can teach the polymorphs to do anything. I mean, you could teach a polymorph how to do your taxes if you essentially could write the code to teach it how to do your taxes. But I mean, we as a community can decide what we want the polymorphs to become. I think it'd be a little bit more fun to have the community help with this than us just choosing what the polymorphs are going to do. But yeah, if we want to integrate with ASM and the brains, we 100% can. And we can start mapping what we want that to look like and what we want polymorphs to do. And then we can essentially make a game around that and teach the brains how to do some cool shit, I guess.
Yeah. If it were up to me and there was a metaverse that was fully destructible and you could use a polymorph inside of it, definitely like my polymorphs to learn how to cause the optimal and maximal amount of destruction in this metaverse.
Yeah, and just destroy stuff and wreak havoc and like steal a tank and run over a building.
Yeah, the brain should be able to learn to operate in vehicles that would not be outside of their capacity, from what I understand. But I'm not the brain expert, sadly.
Peanut has a pretty good question. Is there anything the community can do to help build the community? I feel like we should be working on something like that to get new people wanting to use XYZ. I really think right now, as we're making improvements, I mean, the best thing that you can do is like tell your friends about Universe and tell them to use it. Or, I mean, essentially you can tell them like it's gonna be better. It's usable. There's some things that obviously we want to improve and get fixed. But I really think word of mouth, organic growth is going to be the best thing. And us getting listings on Universe is the best thing that's going to help Universe. I mean, does anybody want to add anything to what they think the community should be doing? I think really like that's the main thing. But
yeah, I mean, just to add to that a little bit, like I said before, snapshot votes, whether it's on features, new collections to add, anything like that is always appreciated. We do look at that regularly and are very happy to implement that on there with community support.
Tyler,
Okay.
can we talk a little bit about the somebody was talking about like plugging into the back end. And I don't know how much you want to talk about that, Tyler, but there has been some
Yeah, it looks
interesting
like there's a little
update.
bit of confusion because on your podcast with G Money, Tyler, I think you worded it as like Universe was gonna help build front ends, but I think that was a little misleading. Because Xerxes asking like, would we as Universe help them build front ends? And I mean, the answer is, I want to
Yeah,
say
I mean, I can
no.
answer this. We're working on it. Like, we've had major brands, major technology, like I'm talking like major, reach out to us. And a DAO shouldn't really be selling a service. The DAO should be monetizing via transactions on the protocol. Everyone who has spoken words on this call up to this point has every incentive to push forward a ton of different marketplaces building into Universe, and a ton of groups building into Universe. The framework that we do that, we're figuring out. Like, before I had Barnbridge, I ran a services company that built interfaces into Web3 protocols. We probably will do something under Graviton because, like, ultimately, if we have to go under NDA with, I'll name a company we're not talking to, like Reebok, like Universe can't sign like an NDA with Reebok. Whether we open source code, like everything that Universe launches has to be open source. If we do like a very boutique like product for some gaming group, because they want like a walled garden marketplace embedded within their application, like that then becomes some, like, it's not something that like we should be doing. Like, I see groups doing that, like offering services and selling a token and doing it as a DAO. I don't think that that is the purpose of a DAO. A DAO needs to power a protocol, but ultimately, how, like, literally anyone can do this. Like, anyone could start a company tomorrow and build things into Universe, or help brands and companies integrate into Universe. My interest in it is that I want to do that and document the shit out of it so that we can have extremely good documentation for when other people do it. And if like a boutique firm comes out of that, like we had a call with G Money yesterday to like iterate it out more, because like I stayed on with G Money like after that podcast, and like there's certain things like we're not going to do. Like there's like already companies that just like out of the box are integrating into like marketplaces, doing like custom drops. Well, not really integrating into marketplaces, like doing custom drops, like writing custom smart contracts, like kind of these boutique type contracts, like what Tim has, like building custom types of NFTs. So like I think it's natural that those groups are going to see Universe as an opportunity to plug into, because like why would any of these custom drop companies not be also just adding in a marketplace, right? But like right now they probably, one, don't even know that they can do that, or two, potentially worse, they don't know how to do it because like we don't have proper documentation on how to actually do that. So I think through like us working with some of these groups, and like when I say us, I mean the individual people at Universe, some of them may help groups integrate into Universe. That's not like Universe, the dev team is focused on doing an integration with Louis Vuitton. Like they need to be focused on improving the protocol and the marketplace that people like access it on. I have a vested interest and making sure separate from Universe, and like I don't take a salary from Universe. So I think that the best thing that I can spend my time on right now for Universe is working with Tim and Troy to set up a framework in which we can onboard some of this deal flow that me and Tim have separate, completely separate from each other. And through that process, documenting it where it's extremely easy for people to embed these types of things into their sites. And that's like a very different go-to-market than what Looks took. But ultimately, my gut feeling was that that was the best long-term go-to-market strategy, even though it's slower at first. It's a lot more long-term sticky, and just the internal like DMs and outreach that's happened up until this point. I think that whoever does what I'm describing, meaning releases a marketplace with extremely solid documentation that anyone can plug into and can build a white labeled interface on top of, where Universe is running in the background. I hope that it is Universe that does that, because whoever does that will beat OpenSea and Looks.
Plug and play.
Yeah, and that
every
also
large brand that I
super.
just named does not even want to put OpenSea on their website, and they don't want to put Universe on their website, but they understand how a protocol works, and they want a white label solution, and they want a permissionless white label solution that they can gatekeep on their end.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to create tools that make it easy to plug and play. I mean, I saw one today, like Tim's been building one, and I saw a group.
Yeah, let's not talk about it. But yeah, there's a lot of cool ass shit that we're building that's going to make that super easy.
Universe will be successful if there's 100 different agencies and groups building on top of Universe, right? So that's part of what me and Troy have been trying to push forward, and I think that we got a head start on everyone. But ultimately, it's a permissionless protocol anybody can plug in. And that's a major, powerful component of what we built.
Synth man, your question about the marketing, we actually talked a bunch about the marketing at the beginning of this call. We've started expanding our reach on different social media sites, and we're actually going to wait still just a little bit before pushing a massive marketing push, just because we want to make sure that we get most of these features that we're working on right now fixed and pushed. But as soon as the marketplace is to the point where we want it, we're going to push a wide marketing reach on all of these different social media sites that we're right now growing a user base and follower base on. So, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, follow us on Twitter, and we'll be expanding to more social media sites as we grow and feel that they are going to be getting us some traction. Win bit boy. I don't know. All right. Would you consider another analog Web 2 example to be Linux? I'm not really sure what this guy's asking.
Yeah, Linux. Yes. The answer is yes.
Okay.
Troy may be able to answer that better than me. But yeah, I think Linux is it's a very successful open source ecosystem. And I think anyone should be thinking about blockchain in terms of Linux in general, where what blockchain offers is the ability to own and vote on the progression of Linux. which is extremely powerful. But that doesn't mean that like a Red Hat doesn't need to exist. So Linux isn't Red Hat and Red Hat isn't Linux, but ultimately, I think that they're both successful separate from each other. And so the best analogy I could give is if Universe is Linux or like Uniswap, then what we still need to build a Red Hat on top of it. And Red Hat's the largest of all of those, but there's many groups and companies. I mean, there's a massive ecosystem built around Linux. And so like the people who were early in Linux and knew how to build Red Hat, they definitely benefited from being like right place, right time. But that didn't like preclude or stop a ton of people from being able to benefit and profit off of Linux external from Linux itself. So I think that this will play out in a similar capacity, with the difference being that the ownership component and the governance component over the open source protocol itself will stop like a Red Hat from being so dominant. I think that you can extrapolate it even further past Linux, that like a lot of what we're building the basis for, if you still are in the we are early mindset, is the basis of the guts of like the internet. Like Ethereum is Web3. The protocols being built on top are probably things that are just public goods at this point. And then there's applications built on top of that. So Web3 will play out in a different way. And we all have to assume and just make the right calls. But the plan around Universe is not to just be a singular application that everyone accesses on universe.xyz. It's to have a burgeoning ecosystem. Like Ethereum, when it was a while back, let's say it had 10,000 devs a month writing on it, and it's substantially more now. Like if we can get 1,000 devs a month writing on Universe, in and around Universe, that aren't even directly compensated by Universe, that is I mean, if we're at that spot in a year or two from now, I actually will just say that it's a foregone conclusion that we probably won, because no amount of like private funding or company or application can keep up with that type of open source development. So we have to foster and develop that and push it forward, which is why we had a lot of things spring up and around Universe, like LeagueDAO, like ASM, like all the fluff stuff, like the polymorphs. That was somewhat predicated and planned to make sure that there was a burgeoning ecosystem around it, because like I think there were probably 50 to 100,000 developers that wrote code on Ethereum last month. There aren't 50 to 100,000 developers at Google, Facebook, and Twitter combined. And so I don't think that Google, Facebook, or Twitter combined can compete with Ethereum. And so if we can push things out and accept that this is an open source protocol, and that be what our efforts are focused towards, then I think it will explain some of like the actions and architecture and decisions we've made up to this point. We're not expanding the Moonbeam at the moment, but I mean, if someone wants to put in a grant to expand to it, we're open. I actually don't know what Moonbeam is, but I'm gonna get off my high horse. I'm done talking for now.
Yeah, I'm looking up what Moonbeam is. It looks like it is some Polkadot smart contracts. So not right now. We're not looking at moving towards that, but if we look to integrate with Polkadot, we can look into that. But maybe I'm looking at it of it's an EVM compatible pair chain. Okay, dope. I think that's something that we can definitely look into. We are going to look into L2s and cross chain capability. It's just we gotta figure ourselves out on mainnet first. But yeah, we will definitely look into this. Me and Ryan will start looking at Moonbeam. I'm sure Ryan knows what it is.
I do not actually. Sorry. But I'll look into it.
I do know what it is now that y'all bring it up, but ultimately, I mean, even just for the polymorphs, I do think we got to look at Polygon, but it's not as easy just to launch the entire backend to. It's not like EVM compatible is all that's needed because we then have to scrape all of that. So we are planning on it, but we need to get Ethereum working properly and everybody be blown away with how humming it is. Before we start looking at other platforms.
Yeah, but I think if we did have to say which direction we're thinking about afterwards is really Polygon and Optimism. Because first off, we're building a Polygon bridge for the polymorphs to be swapped or scrambled, I'm sorry. So if we're going to create Polygon assets, we should probably be thinking about a Polygon marketplace. And, League DAO has the Nomo players that are on Polygon. So we definitely have some reasons why we'd move towards Polygon. And then, I know some people know that we were working on a drop with synthetics, and that is to be dropped on Optimism. And the reason I'm pretty sure we're going to have to build Optimism marketplace for that drop, or at least facilitate one or something, try to figure out something for that. But Markler's no Arbitrum. We'll look into it. We actually like Arbitrum. We're really looking into all of them. So it's just, I'm giving the reasons why we are considering those is because of ecosystem partners, and obviously the polymorphs are going to be going to Polygon. So that's kind of a no-brainer. Yeah, guys, we thought the EVM compatible and EVM equivalent stuff was not as hard too, but Tyler can talk a little bit. I'm pretty sure they're moving the Barn Bridge DAO to Optimism, and that shit was a lot more difficult than they had originally thought. So it is.
No, it's not that complicated to just launch code. If we want Universe to have a marketplace, we could just redeploy everything, but we would, it's a little bit different where a DeFi application really needs to keep track of the transactions that happen regarding that app, or they use an oracle for kind of current market price, or the separation between 2 points. What the Universe application is doing is it's scraping the entire history of the entire Ethereum blockchain of NFT transactions, traits, data, metadata, art, where it points to, in order to be able to show every single NFT properly. So it's not the same. EVM compatibility for DeFi is very different than EVM compatibility for an entire NFT marketplace. That's why when you use DeFi, you just kind of deploy the smart contracts in the front end. You can put a lot of it just to the graph. A lot of DeFi doesn't even need a back end, a hard back end. And so because basically it doesn't need as much data in order to function. It doesn't need as much information. So it's not so like we're not saying like we've already released Barn Bridge and all of its products on Optimism, Avalanche, like Arbitrum, BSC. It takes like 3 days, right? But we're just going to deploy it and nothing's going to show up because it's different.
All right, we're coming up on an hour. And we're gonna try and keep all these at about an hour. But we did get some good questions. We'll answer the remaining of these questions in the Discord pre-AMA channel, but we really appreciate everyone coming and joining the AMA. Next week, we're not going to have an AMA. We're going to have a project call, and those are going to be back to normal. You know, those original calls that we have posted on YouTube. We'll go back to that development style round table where we go around and we'll give updates and then we'll post that, but we'll have more of the development team on those calls so everyone will get a little bit more insight, and then hopefully our AMAs are, you know, we can get a little bit more in detail on some questions about things. But we appreciate everyone's questions, and I think there's some really good questions today, so we appreciate everybody.